This episode of Idle Thumbs is brought to you by Squarespace, the most convenient, the easiest, the fastest, the most compatible way to make your own website, portfolio, blog, or online store.
All of which are websites.
They're all our websites, I know. But I just want to clarify that you can make like a generic website. It doesn't have to be one of those subsets. If you go,
make Chris's homepage.
You could, I guess. If you go to squarespace.com and use the offer code THUMBS at checkout, you will get 10% off your order. And if you sign up for a year, you'll get a free domain name. That is squarespace.com with the offer code THUMBS.
Welcome to my website.
Do you think it's still it's house style for anyone to hyphenate website?
I think the AP killed that a little while back.
Yeah.
I know, like 10 years ago, that was the thing.
I still like that the New York Times, it's two words and web is capitalized only.
Yes.
Because
the
web
World
is like
Wide
the medium.
Web.
It's like a place. It's a proper noun.
It's on
and
the
then
World Wide Web,
just,
which I'm sure house style is the capitalized World Wide Web. So
that's probably true.
Site
So
is
web
an abbreviation of web, and then it's a site on the web.
You know the thing that the New York Times and the New Yorker and other similar publications do that I love? They refer to newspapers such as the Washington Post or their own paper, the New York Times, and the city name is not italicized,
right,
but the paper name is.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like
of course.
The Washington Post posted italics because that is, it's the Post of of Washington D.C. Man, I love it. It's so good. Anyway, you guys ready to talk about video games?
Sure.
Nope. It's Wednesday. It's March 2nd, 2016.
This is Idle Thumbs 252. I'm Chris Remo.
I'm Nick Breckon.
And I'm Jake Rodkin.
Nice. Welcome back, Jake.
The Idle Thumbs italicized from the city of Idle, Pennsylvania.
I guess it would be the Idle Thumbs podcast, and podcast would be italicized.
Yeah, that's true.
I guess so.
Yeah.
What if our town name is Idle Thumbs and the name of our publication is The Podcast?
I mean, it makes more sense than just Idle being italicized.
That's true.
Yeah, that is true.
The Idle Thumbs advertiser.
The Idle Thumbs advertiser gazetteer.
Right.
Gazetteer. I don't know.
Let's call it the Gazetteer.
Yeah. So, I know we all played Superhot.
Yes.
I had played Superhot a few months ago, I think.
You played it like with one of the betas they sent out to Kickstarter backers or something, I think?
Yeah, and it was also in the IGF. And I thought,
that's right.
I played it in the IGF, that's right.
Yeah, and I thought it was the full game because I played all the way through it, and it was relatively recently. It was a few months ago, and by that point, often games are relatively content complete. And I played all the way through it, and there was a beginning, a middle, and an end. It definitely felt like a complete story, and I really, really liked it. It took me about an hour, I guess. Based on the fact that I had an hour played on Steam and I finished it, so I assume it took me about an hour in total. And I was totally, really, really happy with that experience. But then last night, I remember noticing that there were some posts about how there's an endless mode now and all this other stuff. And so I downloaded the release version, which came out recently, and I went in there and tried to find where the endless mode was, and there were extra sort of menu options. The menu of the game, as you guys know, is it
looks like a DOS shell.
Yeah, it's like a simple DOS-esque operating system, and there are all kinds of subfolders and executables and stuff. And there seemed to be more of them than there were when I played the game, so but I couldn't find any of the thing I was looking for, so I just started playing the game again. I ended up playing through the entire game, and about 2/3 of the way through, it got even more expansive than it was in the version that I played through in even crazier ways. I mean,
I've not gotten to any of that stuff yet, I don't think.
Yeah, so it's definitely longer than when I played it before, for sure.
Oh gosh, now I don't know how far I've got. I mean, in comparison to you guys, without really, but I mean,
but would you guys agree that this game does a laudable and shockingly impressive job of taking what seemed like a one-note exercise, which is when you move, the game moves, and when you don't move, the game almost doesn't move, and blows it out into a completely full-featured game? Because I think it's amazing.
Yeah, no, it's
they basically successfully portaled it for me, where it's when I saw the first videos of Portal, I was like, okay, this is going to
Yeah.
be puzzle rooms, and then they came up with every possible thing you could do with that one simple thing, and this game feels very much like a successful version of that.
Yep.
I think, Chris, you talked about this when we were talking about it before, but Superhot is the first game in a long time to change the way my mind works for 10 minutes after I play it. Like, I play Superhot, and then I walk around my apartment, and my brain is still mapping time to space 1-to-1 the way Superhot does, and it really, like, I had the 2 sessions that I was playing it when I stood up, my brain actively felt like the rules were being broken when, like, my girlfriend or cat was moving when I was standing still, or when I realized that the world was still...
they've introduced a new variation.
Oh, it really bothered me that was what happened to my brain. That, like, it successfully, like, that when, like, I stopped moving and things didn't stop moving, or, like, there was some just disconnect there, and it made me feel really bad about the human mind.
So I guess we should quickly recap what this game is. Just the premise of it, obviously. This is one of those games where talking too much about the mechanics definitely will ruin some of it for you. But the basic premise of this game is that it is a first-person shooter in which you can move around and aim with mouse look and WASD just as you can in any first-person game. But as long as you're standing still, the entire world clock ticks along at an extremely
like the
slow
slowest
rate.
Bullet time you've ever seen, basically.
Exactly, yeah. And then anytime you're moving, or for like the half a second after taking an action, like firing a gun or throwing something or anything like that, in that amount of time, like during movement or immediately after executing an action, the world will instantly progress at normal, just clock speed. And so everything happens. Most of what actually transpires occurs in these little blips as you're moving around between your sort of standing still and like getting your bearings and planning your next move. So it's a really amazing hybrid of what it feels like to play a turn-based game, but with the sort of situational awareness and sensation of reacting that you get from a real-time game. It's incredibly clever, and it was a Game Jam game a couple years ago, wasn't it? Or was it just a Kickstarter game?
Yeah, no, it started as a Game Jam.
It started off as a Game Jam game, and then they released that as a web prototype, and then they did a Kickstarter to do the full-fledged version.
Yep.
I think it might have gone on Steam Greenlight or Early Access as well as part of that process. It did sort of all of the things that
They
small
did this
game
sort of
does.
like release to your backers and stuff like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The thing this game makes me think of actually is speedrunning, because if people are familiar, we talked about when AGDQ was going on, the TASBot stuff, which is sort of a tool-assisted thing where you break down a game by slowly stepping through it as opposed to just playing through it multiple times trying to find a run.
Yeah.
And it just made me realize, one, that this game is essentially a game made out of that process, but then also I cannot wait for people to actually speedrun this game, because what that's going to mean is that people will just have to play it in real time to get the fastest, times, which is going to look insane.
Superhot speedruns are going to be super hot, but you never let off of WASD. You're just always going.
Which I tried to do on one level for just like a half an hour because I just wanted to see if I could do it. It's really hard. Like this game, the way this game is balanced is
I think that's like, I imagine my experience with Superhot is very similar to your guys', in that each level is kind of effectively a puzzle, because when you wipe in it, you start over and enemies come in the same order and they have the same spawn points. You're like, okay, now I know a guy's going to come in from that door to my left, and then after that happens, the shotgun guy, shoots through this window, and you can sort of optimize it, but I found that as I was optimizing it on some of the levels, there would actually be windows that I could complete in real time, because I just the part that I was fucking up was like the last two guys. So then it would be like you would end up getting the Groundhog Day situation where, like, okay, that guy, boom, okay, then that guy, pick up the knife, throw it at him, bop, bop, bop. And I'm sure that just because my failure led to me playing parts of it in real time, because I got so adept at knowing what was happening.
Well, and just to quickly comment on that, I think, and I could be wrong about this, so I don't know if either of you has a suspicion either way, but I think that the spawn points are actually affected by your proximity to them.
They are.
Yeah.
They won't spawn if you're close to them.
But if you would do the approximate same route, you can end up creating a predictable situation.
But
you can manipulate
a thing that happens is that if you make because one of the things about Groundhog Day is that you're not always trying the same thing forever until you perfect it. It's also like, well, that was a dead end. I'm going to try something entirely different. And doing that in this game has sort of an amazing feeling because you do get yourself into that kind of implicit puzzle solving state where like this is all going to transpire in the exact same way. I just have to perfect it. But then one time, either intentionally or just because you slip up or something, you go another way, or you grab a different gun, or you kill a different guy. Yeah, and then suddenly an entirely different like grenade rolls down the hill. Like just everything sort of blooms out in a different way, and you can feel that's what's so amazing about this game, engaging both the kind of tactical turn-based game feeling and the real-time reacting action game feeling. It's really incredible how well it captures both of those.
Did you guys play Transistor, the game that Supergiant made after Bastion?
Yeah.
When I heard about Transistor is another game that has time stopping and starting. Mm-hmm. Like when you're inside of a fight in that game, it's like an isometric combat game with some tactics stuff, but the way that game freezes time and restores time seems basically Superhot is giving me what I was hoping that I would get out of the combat in Transistor. And I always found when I played Transistor that I would try to slow down time and then navigate my character in a way so that I could deploy like a ranged shot that would then, when I unfroze time, impact with a character if I defined their trajectory correctly and stuff. And I was never able to actually have the agency that I thought that I would, so I ended up spamming all the time in that game and then felt real bad about myself because I could tell that it was a really well-designed game. But it's Superhot, since it's basically entirely about that. I feel more...
Well, this game splits the difference in the opposite way, right? I feel like Transistor
is in real time, then you choose to freeze it.
Right.
And then, whereas this is frozen time, and you choose to advance it by moving, right? Yeah. No, that's obviously very true. You're right.
Yeah, it's a good comparison, though. I definitely, for whatever reason, I think the Transistor version also sort of just gelled with me a little bit more, and that may have a lot to do with just what my kind of gaming DNA is, and this sort of. I think that even though I don't these days really, like we talked last week about Devil Daggers and how, I think that game is amazing. Jake, have you played Devil Daggers?
Not yet.
Do you know of it?
I know of it, but I haven't played it yet.
Like that's a game that I think conceptually I love, and that I think is really, really great, and I really admire it. I'm probably not going to play it that much because I just don't know if I have at this point, I don't know if I'm going to end up being able to put into it what it needs me to put into it, which is just constant, sustained several minutes of just absolutely unrestrained twitch perfection. You have to, that game is, it's just a crazy demonic arena where just one hit kills you and you have to survive as just demons and projectiles are flailing around you constantly. But I sort of I want to click with it because I did have that history playing games like Quake and Unreal and stuff. But but these days, realistically, I'm just probably not going to. I'm just not as good at them or practiced in them as I used to be. But Superhot is you can sort of dip into that and get those dopamine hits and sort of tap into the facility that you once kind of had, but in a way that is a little bit on your own terms.
It just makes everybody feel like a speedrunner. Like the end of every run just plays out the real time view of things, which just makes you feel like a lord, even though you're actually just whatever. Yeah,
the end of Superhot, you're entirely right about tool assisted, because the end of Superhot, because of the way that your character stops, starts, turns in a really mechanical way.
Yeah,
your playthrough at the end of a level looks like a tool assisted speedrun, or like you're using an aimbot.
Or it looks like
you're Counter-Strike aimbotting.
Exactly. It looks either like an extremely high level or cheating Counter-Strike player.
Yes.
Because there are also extremely high level Counter-Strike players who just do have that jerky, precise movement.
Yeah, that's true.
But then also there are aimbots.
It actually does look like you're spectating through the eyes of a Quake 3 AI character.
Yeah,
the way that it sort of goes.
It's true.
It's scanning totally back and forth, and then it just goes. Turn, kill, move forward again. Turn, kill, move forward.
Especially when you have the assault rifle, because it fires 4 bullets.
Yeah.
So you can fire one bullet and do a 180-degree return and then fire the next bullet.
Yeah.
And then when you see that in real time, you go, oh, okay.
Okay, yeah. Interesting guy. Yeah.
So the
Superhot, HPB.
Oh man, that took me a few seconds to.
That's the name of the
reach into the well,
Superbot.
grab that
Superbot. More like Superbot. Am I right?
You're not. In this case, you're not. Often you are, but you're not now. A thing that is on a totally different tack than what we're talking about with this game so far. Do you guys have any opinions or reactions to the fictional side of this game?
I had a reaction.
Yeah.
I found it really boring.
I found it very actually repulsive in the sense that I really just wanted to play the levels, it kept. I didn't have a problem with it.
Your character declares it to be early in the game. And
yeah. I mean, I really didn't have a problem with it until they actually forced it upon me. When I could just escape out of that stuff, I was fine. And then there's a point at which it just they could have gotten unskippable.
Everything they wanted out of this story by just having the DOS prompt and the sort of weird, ambiguous, glitchy stuff, and have you as a human being be the person who's experiencing this weird illicit software good without having to have all of the meta structural stuff. Because I feel like it feels like overstepping. Like they could have pulled all that stuff back, and I think they would have gotten exactly what they wanted out of the sort of weird, ambiguous experience you have at the beginning of the game, but carried throughout it with all the interstitial stuff cut out. I don't know how much we are or aren't talking about the story of it, but
but the story just in very general terms, without going into later stuff in the game, is basically that
Hotline Miami.
It's very much like Hotline Miami, or at least it maybe is. I don't know. I don't know if I really know what Hotline Miami.
It presents as the same sort of smug assholes telling you are or aren't implicit
garbage
in something, and you are or aren't a piece of shit who's real. But
the idea more specifically is that you have been through some BBS system or chat program or something. You've been sent an executable for this piece of illicit software, and you're playing it, and then in between rounds of playing it, you're talking to someone, and sort of increasingly it seems like something sinister or insidious is happening. Anyway, a lot of that stuff was effective for me in the sense that there are a lot of moments in the game where I actually felt genuinely unsettled and sort of surprised by some of those meta-fictional elements, but also simultaneously. So there were, often I was sort of, Nick, you said you were repulsed or repelled. I was often simultaneously repulsed in a way that I think was effective and intended, and also repulsed by what I saw were just erring too much on the side of cleverness.
So you're actually repulsed by the tone in the way that it was intended, and then sometimes it was just the presence and choices of the content at all.
Exactly.
We're okay.
What this game reminds me of was sort of
don't even try to talk, Nick.
No. Say what you're going to say, because what I'm going to say is sort of on a different tack.
Well, Jake, you mentioned Hotline Miami, and I feel like this game sort of captures what happened going from Hotline Miami to Hotline Miami 2, where Hotline Miami, it's okay, there's something kind of unsettling and weird and intentionally repulsive and grimy about this game, and it's sort of effective, and it makes you feel kind of gross, and there's a lot of room for you to interpret what it means and what you think it's about, and people had just different reactions to it, but the game wasn't going so far as to kind of collapse any of that stuff down into a... But then...
It gave you a feeling that was unique and gross to games, but it didn't tell you how you were supposed to feel about you feeling that way. And then Hotline Miami 2 was it's actually because you're supposed to fuck people. You're
they might have made some choices here that don't really support.
No.
Yeah. So anyway,
you love it.
And
you're supposed to love it, Chris.
Yeah, and this game feels like it jumped that shark itself, in the game, and I kind of wish because I really, even though a lot of the stuff was pretty heavy-handed, I would have been fine with that part if it was just kept in this weird mid gray area zone.
Yeah, the game feels already on its face like you have knowingly installed a piece of contraband onto your computer, but then when the game's it's so cool that you've installed contraband software, no, it's not anymore. It's not. God damn it, it's not. But like when it was ambiguously like patching itself mid-game and you don't know what that means or what extra stuff you're gonna get.
And when like glitches happen and stuff.
Or like
that stuff is fine. I like that stuff.
Even just
but,
the one that blips you into a room and just the first thing it tells you is to just push a guy off a cliff. I was like, that's such a like. There's just some of the level starts even were just like that was really strong.
I like that stuff.
I like that stuff a lot.
But
well, I mean, so the realization that I really can't wait for this to be a speedrun game and then there's a part in this game, I guess this is a spoiler but whatever, where you actually have to quit out of the game to continue playing.
I like that part.
That's
like that.
cool from the context of like, that's cool once. But then thinking about the legacy of this game and what this is going to turn into bums me out hard because there's so much stuff like that is just completely unskippable.
I understand where you're coming from,
because
but
speedrunners are going to figure out the quickest way to quit and restore that.
Oh no, they will. They will. But
I don't want people. I think it would be shitty if people making a single player campaign had to be like, oh, but will this be ideal for the speedrunning community? Like the speedrunning community, their whole job is to figure out how to make that shit work.
I guess.
Like I don't think that's a big deal, but
I do. Because I played this game once and I went, okay, fine. This stuff is fine, but it wasn't so good that I feel like from the context of if I wanted to replay this multiple times, even myself, I don't want to sit through all of that again.
Yeah, I'm not swayed by that. I understand where you're coming from, but I thought that stuff was novel enough when I did it that it totally.
I found it annoying for the most part, so I guess I just bounced off of it in a weird way.
Yeah,
you're also the guy who played that game that was about configuring your graphics hardware or whatever.
That's true.
That was your favorite game.
Yeah.
So anyway, Superhot. As much as I think had some negative stuff to say about some of the elements of it, I think this game is actually really amazing and a totally worthwhile.
Oh yeah, it's great. It has some stuff that's really easy to make fun of on a podcast.
Yeah, for sure. But the game itself is great, and even a lot of the meta sort of fictional elements I thought are really cool. It's in a lot of cases. But also, I finally did, when I complete the game, it just told me straight up, you have unlocked endless mode. So I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's what I was looking for the first time. So I guess it's a good thing I spent like 2 hours.
Oh, how does endless mode work? Is it actually randomly generating spaces for you, or is it just rolling through the campaign?
There are levels. There's
endless mode levels?
Yeah, there are endless mode levels, and it's cool. I mean, it's like exactly what... Actually, there's a thing that is really great about it that I kind of... that I sometimes found myself wanting in the main game, but I understand why it works the way it works, is that in this game, or in the endless mode, when you kill someone, a huge kill count number flashes on the screen. So it's like the exact instant that every enemy is destroyed is completely
Man, that would actually be really nice in the main game, because like enemies turn into the sort of yellow-orange crumbles, but you don't always know.
Well, you're not always looking at them, because in some cases you're already looking somewhere else or behind a
and you're sort of like, I hope that bullet hit, and then you turn around,
exactly,
so getting the number tells you confirmed kill.
Yeah, and I think that makes sense in an endless mode where it's entirely about this sort of hair trigger, like time trial thing, or not time trial, but the survival thing. But it's really, it's fun. It's like, honestly, endless mode is what you would expect it to be if you've played the game. It's there are guys and they spawn forever until you die. I haven't played it very much because by the time I finished the game, it was already late last night.
What triggers going to the next map?
Oh, I don't know. You get like you probably hit a minimum score or something.
Okay.
I don't actually know. Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't play it enough. Like I was saying, by the time I finished the main game, it was already late. So I loaded up the endless mode and I played a bit. But
I like that the two notable games that use this mechanic are this game and Braid.
Yeah,
that's true.
Which is
Braid has
like one of the middle worlds of Braid is basically Superhot Braid.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Jonathan Blow would probably
Jonathan
like
Bro more like Super.
That is totally more like that.
Jonathan Bro's Superhot.
Yeah.
Anyway, what were you going to say about Jonathan Bro?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Oh.
Anyway, Superhot is really cool, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
I guess it's Polish. Does that sound right?
Oh.
All the names in the credits looked Polish to me when I completed it.
That's cool.
And there was like a Polish sort of metal song playing over the credits, and it cracked me up.
That's part
was
of
it a guy saying the word Superhot, but with a Polish accent?
I don't know what he was saying, but the reason it cracked me up is because it just reminded me of the era of like Serious Sam and well, that's it. Well, Serious Sam's maybe the wrong touchstone, but there was sort of an era of like or some kind of... I wish I could think of examples. I didn't think of this before we started recording.
You would expect Duke Nukem Forever and one of the Descent games or something to end with a sick metal song.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I definitely the story in this game...
From the same era as, like, the sequels to the Tim Burton Batman movies, but in video games, where it's like, we got a sick...
Right, yeah.
We got Aerosmith to do our credits. Why? Who cares? We don't even have an end title sequence. We just scroll the credits and play our Oscar-nominated fucking shitty metal song.
I mean,
or, like, guitar pop.
Well, this is more of the in the line of like the Quakes or the Serious Sams or things more than that,
right?
Where it's like,
but Superhot,
regardless of what the story is, like the kind of person who's really stoked about making this game is definitely just gonna have like a sick ass metal song at the end.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it's funny in contrast to like super minimalist like white ambient occlusion only aesthetic of the game, except that it's pretending to be out of the era where there is a sick metal song in the credits.
Yeah, because you could take the aesthetic of this game and it could go in a totally different branching direction right from square one and end up in it like the Unfinished Swan or something, right? I mean, you could just totally do it differently. This game could have identical mechanics, but instead of guns, it could be like throwing a flower at a bad emotion or something, and then the end, and then the end of the game would be something different. So,
or a metal song.
Yeah, it could also be that.
But then it would be meaningful.
True. Yeah.
Because it would be like, a reflection on the person you were playing as in the game.
Jonathan Blow would have made that game.
Jonathan Bro made this game, though.
Yeah.
I'm really happy about Jonathan Bro. Sorry.
Yeah. How is that not a thing?
It's probably a thing.
I mean, it probably is.
Yeah, it surely is.
I haven't seen it.
Oh, he lives in Poland.
Jonathan Bro.
Good, Chris. Really good.
I know. I nailed it. Man, this podcast is running,
I know.
running out of
What
steam.
are we doing with this podcast?
You guys want to take a break?
I guess we better.
Okay.
Yeah.
Video game. This episode of Idle Thumbs is brought to you by Squarespace. Squarespace is the fastest, the easiest, the most responsive, the most compatible, the most drag-and-drop way to make your own professional website, portfolio, blog, or online store. If you go to squarespace.com and use the offer code THUMBS at checkout, you will get 10% off your order. Also, if you register for a year or more, you get a free domain name thrown in there. So you really can't go wrong. A reader wrote in to tell us about his website that he used the Thumbs code to register on Squarespace. It is wearemetalheads.com.
Okay.
He says, I'm one of the co-hosts of the Metalheads podcast, and for years we looked for the easiest way to design our website, to host podcasts and reviews. Squarespace couldn't have been easier. I personally, at OpethFan on Twitter, follow every Idle Thumbs on Twitter, and while it's clearly evident none of you are metalheads, if you'd like to take a dive into loud screaming vocals, face-melting solos, and blast drum beats, check us and our podcast out at wearemetalheads.com. So that's a really good counterpoint to the idiotic metal-related non-discussion we had about 2 minutes ago. Maybe we can learn about what...
Maybe we can become metalheads.
Maybe we can become metalheads. Maybe we will be metalheads.com.
It's true.
Squarespace is incredibly easy to use. You can put together websites that work on mobile. I'm looking at wearemetalheads.com on mobile right now. Looks like they have 43 episodes so far of the Metalheads podcast.
Podcasts, interviews, reviews, metal. Wearemetalheads.com. It's a really nice site.
Yep.
It's really good. Yep. I really like seeing the super clean Squarespace aesthetic then filled with like a shitload of demons and stuff. Like it's what you want.
Yep. So Squarespace, 10% off with the promo code THUMBS. And if you register for a year, you will get a domain name thrown in. So everything you need to get your website going, you can just do it all at once, start making it immediately. It's really fast, really easy, really straightforward. Thank you, Squarespace. Video game. This episode of Idle Thumbs is also brought to you by Casper mattresses. Casper mattresses are made in the United States of America, are obsessively engineered, and are priced really, really well. I think most of us have slept on Caspers. I definitely have. They're extremely comfortable. They pop out of a crazy box that's delivered to your door in an amusing
Not every
way.
day, just on
Just
the first time.
Just the once, so savor it. If you would like to savor it, you can go to Casper.com and actually go to Casper.com/thumbs and use the promo code thumbs. That will get you $50 towards any mattress on their website. They start at only $500 for a twin-size mattress and $950 for a king-size mattress. If you have shopped for mattresses before, and I imagine many of you have, given that you probably have a mattress, you will know that that is an extremely attractive price for a good mattress. And these are good mattresses. I really, really like them. They're very comfortable. And again, they efficiently arrive in an amusing way. Casper.com/thumbs. The promo code is thumbs. Once it arrives, if you, for some reason, are not satisfied, they have an extremely accommodating return program. You can just send it back and no questions asked. I don't think you're going to want to, but it's there. That's how much they're confident that you will enjoy your Casper mattress. That's Casper.com/thumbs with the promo code thumbs. Nick, get Casper.
Okay.
Video game. Oh, man. Nick, I can hear that you're listening to nickbreckon.cool.
Yeah, I am. Website.
After you, I guess? Who mentioned nickbreckon.cool
No,
last week?
that was James Spafford.
Yeah, after Spaff hypothesized that a website at nickbreckon.cool might someday exist. Of course, it immediately did.
Yes.
And is a direct redirect to the timestamp in the YouTube video of last week's episode where we discussed the potential existence of nickbreckon.cool.
It's true.
So if you want to hear us talk about nickbreckon.cool, just visit nickbreckon.cool.
I don't know why you'd want to.
Well, you just did.
I guess
I
so.
did a couple days ago.
Yeah.
Maybe someone has engineered a domain registering robot that listens to Idle Thumbs and parses the language for valid domain names, like valid combinations of phrases and top-level domains, and then just immediately registers those.
But nickbreckon.cool,
That's
maybe
true.
it's available if you want that. No, it won't be. There's a time limit on that.
No, he's not going to get it in time. You can probably go and get nickbreckon.cool and put whatever you want on it, and then
Somebody did that.
Yep, there it is.
Weird. Whenever I want to hear that, I just go there.
You can just go to that site.
Yeah, you weren't on that podcast, so this is even more valuable for you,
Yeah,
Jake.
now I've learned about nickbreckon.cool.
And you learned about it from nickbreckon.cool.
I did. It's the Zombocom of nickbreckon.cools.
Man, speaking of robots, we all saw the video. There's apparently, we must have seen this at some point, I guess, but I don't know if I remembered. There's a new Boston Dynamics robot called Spot, which is like a BigDog, but seems to be powered by fewer bees.
Well, they're in their no bees mode now, where they had too many bees in their robots, and their robots sounded like beehives that were out to kill you.
Right.
And then the military rejected them for sounding too much like bees. You guys talked about this, I think.
Yes.
So now they've got their beeless human, and now there's also a beeless dog.
Right. And the dog, man, there's a video.
The dog man? They also have a dog man.
There's one video that's the official Boston Dynamics video about Spot, which is this robot, and it does all the things they normally do. You see it jogging along with a human and stuff.
Do they kick it and stuff? Do they abuse Spot?
I didn't watch the whole thing because the main one I watched was a different video that is an actual real dog, a little terrier, I guess, Scottish terrier or something, running around and being extremely intimidated by and trying to intimidate a Spot robot. And it's just like 3 solid minutes of that little dog just exhausting its lungs barking at this larger robot.
It does not know that robot does not give a shit, because that robot is just a guy with an Xbox controller laughing at the dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also,
there's a long
these things
chain
are
of
controlled
just...
with Xbox 360 controllers.
Yeah.
That was weird to see.
It's great.
Is it?
I don't know if it's great.
Man, so there's a good contrast between this video of the dog clearly not trusting this robot to another piece of robot news that broke this week, which is that apparently human beings will trust robots to their deaths, even if the robots are clearly untrustworthy, malfunctioning, and wrong. there was a study that showed...
This doesn't sound like a very fun study to take part in.
There was a study that found that in a mock fire test... So people were invited to participate in a study, and they were not told what the study actually was, and they were just said, okay, go to this conference room and fill out some like things. And they were told that's what the study was. And to get there, they were told to follow a guide robot that would take them to the room. Yeah. And so they did this a bunch of times with a bunch of different groups of people, and the robot like did different things in the different trials. And in some cases, the robot would just like lead them in circles, and in some cases, it would just like break down. Or in some cases, the person would like a human would say like, "Oh, this robot isn't working correctly." But like regardless, people would continue following the robot even when it was obviously not working correctly. And so anyway,
that's probably because the robot's the only thing that tells them how to get to the room.
So eventually, through whatever means, they get to the room, and then in the middle of this test in the room, a simulated fire occurs. Like they pump fake smoke into the building and make it seem like there's a fire emergency, and then the robot starts directing them to the nearest fire exit. And the researchers, actually, there's a really good quote. They said, people seem to believe that robotic systems know more about the world than they really do, and that they never make any mistakes or have any kind of fault. In our studies, test subjects followed the robot's directions, even to the point where it might have put them in danger had this been a real emergency. We expected that if the robot had proven itself untrustworthy in guiding them to the conference room, that people wouldn't follow it during the simulated emergency. Instead, all of the volunteers followed the robot's instructions, no matter how it had performed previously. We absolutely didn't expect this.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Yep.
Robots.
Yep. So the robot was like breaking down and like being wrong and directing people the wrong way, and they still followed it even in the emergency situation, which is presumably a case where people should know that there are like actual emergency routes and signs posted in buildings that would tell them where to go.
Yeah, but if a thing that's like a human but does not have emotions tells you it probably is just relaying the correct information to you. Because why would it not? Why would it tell you other things?
Yeah.
Because it is broken or evil.
Well,
or because it's been trained to be evil by these studies.
Yeah, or because it's
like
trained to be in a
sliding the loaded gun across the table and just take this information that you can just tell humans whatever and they'll do it. Like what?
Super hot.
Yeah,
super hot.
Yeah, I mean like.
The robot is also a hilarious little like 2-foot tall thing with like
good
little emergency
follow
lights.
me to your death.
That's really funny.
Yeah, one of those stupid little mouse robots from Star Wars.
Push this man off a cliff.
Yeah. No, not even push this man. Just jump off the cliff.
Yeah. In this case, the robot does not need to tell you to push someone because that person jumped earlier when
Turn
the robot
left.
told it. Yes. This is the way.
Yeah.
That robot, I wonder how far you could push that. If it says, no matter what you think might happen to me, when I do this, you should also do it because it's the way to be safe. And then it just rolls off the edge of a building. It's like, don't worry, there's a thing at the bottom that will catch you and me. And you're like, that you would forget in that moment that robot does not give a fucking shit. Right. Because
it doesn't care about being saved.
Right. It can build all the trust in the world, and then it is irrelevant. Because even if it's a fucking sentient robot, its contents could immediately be beamed into a duplicate of itself.
Right.
It's like, I guarantee that you will be fine because I will be fine. On the drop, it just downloads its brain to itself and then moves out of the way of its other self. Anyway, trust that robot.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I was thinking about myself in that situation, and like, I would probably follow the robot.
Yeah,
no,
I
you
don't
would.
know, like what to do. I'm stupid.
Walk into these flames, I'll be fine.
Yeah. You know, you could just make it say something scientific sounding, and I would probably just do it.
We could probably. The flames will not hurt you. What? And then it just goes.
Fire isn't bad.
It just rolls its way through as you watch the robot melting. You're like, I guess
I am fine.
And what if it's like the flames will melt me, but you will be fine? Yeah.
Haven't you seen those guys who walk on coals?
Yeah. Anyway, it's smarter than humans and knows.
Yeah.
God, the idea that it's doing this because it's smarter and not because it's stupider is way worse.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's people's assumption.
Yeah, true.
Amazingly. I mean,
Well, yeah.
That robot's too smart. I don't know where he's taking us.
what's its angle?
Yeah. It's actually probably true. At a certain point, you would hit the curve of the robot trying too hard to convince you to walk into the fire. The fact that it's just a very straightforward, this is the way, is probably the sweet spot for like what you want the robot to do.
Weird alpha confidence from that robot.
Yeah, exactly.
This is the way out.
Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm.
I am going there. Do you want to be left behind?
Yeah, if it turns into like a Larry David robot, like, this is the way. No, I'm telling you. This is it. Right. Here's why it's the way. You'd be like, this robot. There's something wrong with this robot.
Overreach.
I can't quite place what's wrong with this.
And then as all of the humans just walk into the flames to perish together, the Curb Your Enthusiasm theme just comes in.
Yeah, I watched Ex Machina for the second time a couple nights ago.
Oh yeah,
you were celebrating its win for visual effects in the Academy Awards.
Sure, yeah. And the thing that occurred to me, probably occurred to me watching it the first time, but Oscar Isaac's character in that movie, who is clearly a guy that knows that we are doomed, is just drunk through the entire movie.
Yeah.
But I guess I didn't connect that explicitly to the idea that like he pretty much knows that robots are like a couple of days away from just telling him to walk into the fire. And he's just getting loaded every night, and I love that aspect.
That was an amazing performance.
Oh my god! I think that performance is actually just the reason why that movie is notable to like a large degree. Like watching his performance in general, like just man, it's fucking good. That character is such a unique dude. Mm-hmm. Like it's just a very
for a movie with only basically 3 actors in it, all of them do a good job.
Oh yeah, the cast in that movie was pitch perfect.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That helicopter guy just nailed it.
I was referring to the.
You watch Jurassic Park every night. He's like, I got to nail this.
You know, the movie about the guy, the robot woman, and the helicopter pilot.
Oh yeah,
good movie.
Yeah, no, it is.
High video game content this episode.
Oh, you know what?
Right.
You know what? I need to talk about a game now that I've been meaning to talk about for months, and it's. I don't think it's going to take very long to talk about, but I just keep every single week. I'm like, oh, I got to remember to talk about Doug, and then I don't because we always have something else, or we start reader mail or whatever, and I always forget. But I'm going to talk about an iOS game that I've been playing sort of off and on for a couple of months now, which is the amount of time I've been trying to get myself to talk about it, and it's called Doug. Okay, spelled Doug D-O-U-G, and then Doug the verb D-U-G.
Okay,
so Doug digs.
Is it actually a Dig Dug type game?
Yeah, it's definitely Dig Dug inspired. It's like if Spelunky met Dig Dug, basically.
Okay.
So
Doug Dig Dug.
Yeah. So this game is it's a game where you essentially are just going down forever. You play this little dwarf character named Doug, and you can burrow down, left, or right. You can't ever go back up again. There's no way to go up. There's no jump. There's no climb. You're just always going down forever. And as you burrow, you're sort of like eating through blocks of stone. And then if you create like an untethered sort of floating island of stone by burrowing around it, it will collapse down. And like sometimes you can do that unintentionally.
You can make a thing. You can
and you can destabilize a section that will fall onto you and crush you. And especially the deeper you get, the more unstable things get.
That's very much how Dig Dug works, isn't it? Because you dig around to make things drop and crush monsters in that game.
Yeah, in this game, that is also true in this game. You can directly attack enemies by walking into them. You know, if they fall on you or get you from behind, you will die. But if you hit them from your front, they will perish. And the game has 2 axes of progress, one of which is downward movement and one of which is wealth collected by sort of uncovering treasure as you dig, and those are both tracked on a high score thing. I guess the primary metric is wealth. That's the thing that the high score is ranked by, but then next to it each one also says how deep you got, and sometimes it can be fun to just shoot for one rather than the other. It's surprisingly I found it to be surprisingly long-lasting in terms of how much mileage it gets out of this simple conceit. You know, it's sort of in the way that like Downwell or something does, which is another game about just going down forever and has fewer moving parts than something like Spelunky does, but still captures a lot of that sense of cascading. You know, in this game, the way that you dig through things and create unstable earth, you know, like that stuff can produce surprising situations, and sometimes you can create crazy chain reactions, and things can occur that you didn't expect. And it's it uses touch controls, so at least for someone like me, it's never going to be as I'm never going to feel as totally adept with it as I do with playing Spelunky with a controller or whatever. But I'm really impressed by how well this game packs some of those dynamics into just a really small screen and control mechanism and suite of mechanics.
How'd you end up finding out about Doug?
Honestly, I think it's just a reader sent it to. I mean, honestly, the only way that I ever find out about mobile games anymore, which is that a podcast reader will hear me talk about an iOS game like once a month or so, and then they will send me a recommendation, and then I'll try and check it out if I sort of have a moment where I can just kind of want something to play, and then if it hits, I'll just leave it on my phone for a few weeks usually, and that was the case with this game.
Nice.
And I just like it. It's just just a really really well put together game that feels really feels like just like a complete whole product that is really nice. I don't remember how much it cost because it was weeks and weeks ago at this point that I bought it, but I do not think it was expensive. So I mean, it's a mobile game, right? So of course,
yeah,
it's really fun. It's called Doug, and it's by I think the Electric Toy Company, which their website describes as like a whole studio full of like old timey people, but I think it's just one guy.
Okay,
so yeah,
that's really cool.
Yep.
Maybe I'll play Doug.
Yeah, you might like it.
You play as Idle Thumb's web developer, Doug Tobacco.
Yeah. The only choice is Doug this time.
Doug dies in every game of this. You can't.
It's like
save
the other
Doug.
game in which Doug was a character.
You can prolong Doug's death in this game longer than in some games, but ultimately Doug dies. Yeah.
I need to play that virtual reality game.
What?
That game that I found. I'll play it for next week.
What?
The weird 1996 VR game that exists.
Did you talk about this on a podcast?
I mentioned it briefly, yeah.
Oh, crazy. I don't remember.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I'm going to play that.
All right. I look forward to whatever this is.
Mm-hmm.
So speaking of games you have played, Nick, Anthony Morris writes in about NBA 2K. He says, just discovered your podcast and I love it. I wanted to say a few things about the 2K series and basketball in general. Tim Curry is not necessarily breaking the game.
Tim Curry?
Oh, Steph Curry. Jesus, sorry. I was
Hi, Chris.
confusing Golden State Warriors Steph Curry with Gabriel Knight 2 and the Clue movies Tim Curry.
Good.
I mean, they're very easily confused.
They both broke their respective games.
That's true. Steph Curry is not necessarily breaking the game, but he is a nearly unbeatable opponent a la Jordan. He's doing it in a way no one has really done before. Most guys that have been dominant are huge guys like Shaq and Wilt Chamberlain, who are godly specimens. Wilt had a lot of rules changed to nerf him, but it's future-proofing against guys who would come later. There have been guys who shoot as well as Curry, but do not do so at the volume he does. Kyle Korver last year at 49% via Curry's 46% from a three-point range. Korver also had a 54% year. League average is 35%. But to be considered a good shooter, the benchmark's about 40. I don't see any rule change coming from Curry's brilliance, by the way. If they move the three-point line back, it would only make Curry stronger, as he's one of only a handful of players with that range.
It's true.
All sports have had numerous rule changes throughout the year. Basketball is no different. It just happens to be the newest. It just came across as though you were saying the others don't. I don't think we meant to say. I don't think that's what we meant to say. Yeah.
The funny thing about this is that the whole atmosphere surrounding this stuff, and a lot of people have actually linked me, articles about. Well, for instance, the game designers of 2K have come out and said, well, we don't really know how to balance the actual game now, because if we just made him as good as he is, it would literally break our video game. Right. But then the thing that's amusing to me right now is that Steph Curry had to, in the last few days, come out and say, please, old time basketball guys, stop basically shitting on me. And what's so hilarious about it is that it's in the context of him quote unquote breaking the game, all of these other guys have just had to come out and just start I could have beat him. He's not that good. Which is just what would happen in a Counter-Strike match when someone's just, racking up 40 kills. Or when you're playing Dota and it just devolves into people just whining in chat. That's just totally what is happening to this guy in his actual life. He's just destroying this huge multi-million-dollar game, and everyone's just yeah, he's he's not. And it's just, it's so good. It's so good that it's just turning into like what it actually is, which is just a game.
It's true that it's just a game.
Well, like a silly game, as silly as anything else, right? Yeah.
I just realized I think I erroneously claimed Tim Curry was in the one Gabriel Knight game he was not in. Gabriel Knight 2. I think he was actually...
there was a weird
Gabriel
FMV
Knight,
actor.
Yeah, he was in Gabriel Knight 1 and 3.
1 and 3, yeah.
And he was replaced by sort of hastily put together TV actor face man, whoever he was. The guy who played Gabriel Knight in Gabriel Knight 2 just looks like an FMV game actor. But Tim Curry was also in... Wasn't he in one of the Command & Conquer games? He had to have been.
Oh, yeah, he was in Red Alert 3.
Because there's that... that quick video of him
like
just cracking
Soviet
up
man.
when trying to say outrageous things in that game and clearly thinking that it is the most heinous garbage ever, but they kept the take because I guess they were self-aware enough to know they were making an FMV game with Tim Curry in it.
Yep. Anyway, so I get all Currys wrong in all ways. Anyway, so this reader continues... video game related to video games, I play 2K year-round and have done so since I got the first installment on Dreamcast a long time ago. Obviously, I'm also a basketball nut, but I play 2K in between other games. I've owned every installment and rack up thousands of hours on each one. You mentioned changing something as simple as a turbo button can drastically change a game. They alter the button mapping almost every year, it seems, and are always trying to work out a new way to integrate the other stick. It's kind of frustrating because I and others have mastered the controls and can do virtually anything we want, then we look like a baby giraffe with its shoelaces tied together for about 2 hours and picking up the next game. Also, frequency vibrations is without a doubt the dumbest nickname.
Yeah,
if someone gave me that nickname, I would punch them in the mouth.
They did. It was Spike Lee.
Anyway. There have been a bunch, I think a number of people wrote into us about various aspects of the NBA 2K and sort of larger NBA stuff surrounding what we talked about a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
That was just one example. And there have been interesting, Nick, you mentioned some of the articles about it. There's interesting stuff about this. So Alicia Vieira writes in, Howdy Thumbs. The Spaceteam card game came up in discussion on the last episode, and I was compelled to share my story with it. And before I read the rest of this, Jake, are you familiar with the Spaceteam card game?
I know that it exists, but I don't know anything about it, really.
Yeah. Nick, I forget, have you actually played it, or did we just talk about it existing?
We just talked about it existing, yeah.
So the way that it works, I think basically, Spaceteam was an iOS game, and there's a card game based on it where... the point of the game is like it's a cooperative thing where you're all trying to manipulate these insanely named controls on your spaceship to keep the whole ship from falling apart. And everyone has access to different controls. And so the game progresses by you like sort of crazily shouting out the control you're trying to manipulate. And then the person who has it has to follow your instructions. And so the card game is similar to that. And that everyone has a hand of cards that represent these different devices, and you're all trying to like madly determine who has each one and so on. So anyway, that frames what that game is for Alicia's email. She says, I was playing with 3 friends who had no familiarity with any form of Spaceteam, and it was my first time trying the card version. After reviewing the rules, I explained the mechanics as best I could and dealt out the cards, which one of the players immediately laid out face up on the table in front of them. I told her we should be holding them in our hands, not displaying them. I was asked if it said so in the rules. I couldn't remember, but I knew instinctively that this was not the way to play. The rest of the group thought it was a great idea, though, as it was a cooperative game, and they were ready to go, not for me to scour the rule sheet. So for the next 3 minutes, we played the quietest game of Spaceteam ever, as people simply picked up their needed cards from their adjacent neighbors' face-up piles, only needing to politely ask for something when it was displayed by the person directly across from them and they couldn't reach. Anomalies were no big deal, since everything was so calm. My friends, unsurprisingly, did not think much of the game at the end. I tried to explain that we had totally broken things playing that way, but they had no interest in trying it again. In a later review of the rule sheet, it does say in the setup that players should hold their own cards, but I didn't manage to pull that out in time, and ended up having, at least for me, the craziest Spaceteam experience ever. Thanks for all the great podcasts, Alicia.
That's pretty good.
That is really good.
Man, experiences like that just infuriate me and make me not want to play games with people anymore. Like, I can't deal with that at all. It makes me the like shithead man. But like, when people just like, no, I think we know exactly what it should be. Just let's go. Oh, this is actually bad. I just want to fucking throw the thing on the floor and walk out and never talk to those people again. I can't deal with it. It just makes me when you deliberately sabotage your own ability to have fun and then blame everyone else but yourself. Oh, it makes me so mad.
My experience with that is that it's not that you're playing the game wrong, but that you're going through sort of the demo round and trying to teach people how to play. But then once they've gone through that, because it was the demo round, they're like, this isn't that fun. Let's not play this. This is boring. All you do is
I'm just learning.
I'm just learning. Oh, this isn't. Yeah. Clearly, this isn't very enjoyable.
There's a certain temperament for that, but the thing that makes me sad, I guess, about this example is that the Spaceteam card game. If you just don't fuck it up and read the rules for a second, like if they lasted 20 more seconds,
while she found the
to be like, oh no, we are supposed to hold the cards in our hand because they're supposed to be secret because the point is that you're not supposed to see them and you have to communicate. Then it's fun from then on because it's Spaceteam, but so it's not like you're like, oh no, sorry, you have to get these 3 units before you can build the hot air balloon, and then you can travel to this. So I see. Oh, sorry, we shouldn't have done that. And these 2 cards,
the remaining ones by 2, you'll see that you only had this many.
Yeah, you don't. This game has none of that shit. But it was still like, no, this. I think we've figured out what to do. Oh, this is boring. God, good God.
Yeah, it's too bad this isn't a video podcast, so we could see Jake's.
I actually gave a huge eye roll. Like that was a real eye roll that I. Oh man. Anyway, I guess that was a more accurate simulation of what a well-oiled starship would work like.
Right, I know. That's the other funny thing about this particular example. It's a very cooperative crew who just...
that's actually... Spaceteam, the actual game, is like...
It's like The Martian.
Or it's like the most outrageous 60s Star Trek or like the J.J. Abrams Star Trek movies, and the all cards on the table Spaceteam is Star Trek The Next Generation Star Trek. Of just... Tachyon
But just let the
at 3.
robot do it. Just he'll
move
do
thing
all
to the
things.
thing. Did it, and then maybe the camera shakes, but everyone just continues to talk in a leveled pace and sort of drag Macromedia Director sliders around on a fake touchscreen.
Jonathan Anderson writes, I recently had the pleasure of introducing Tom Perrine at the Large Infrastructure System Administration, LISA, conference. Tom spoke on the issue of network security and working with law enforcement, drawing largely on his experience at PlayStation, even in the PS2 era. A large portion of the talk narrated tracking down a single DOS attack across months and years against the SOCOM servers. It was a great talk and honestly made me a bit worried about how much havoc one person was able to cause over such a long period of time. I'm sure things are different now, with networking being much more integrated and important to modern consoles. In some ways, it made the black box of game servers feel much more real, with explicit discussion of firewall rules and such, but in other ways it made me fearful of how exposed a game is now. Even without nefarious intent, launch for an online game can mean weeks of unstable player experience due to the influx of early players. It impresses me just how good modern console network security must be if it took so little to cause so much trouble before. Anyway, thought it was a good talk, though to be fair, I'm a system admin, and I wanted to share. Jonathan. That is crazy.
Yeah.
That is weird to think of someone sustaining a DOS attack against SOCOM for years.
That's their specific,
just what I do.
I'm
vendetta. Just the guy who launches denial of service against SOCOM.
Right. It's just his badge of honor.
Kind of my thing.
Yeah. I don't know. I can't think of any recent examples of notable network outages.
Well, there was the PlayStation Network.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's been a while though. That was the week Portal 2 launched or something, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't. That was more recent. Oh, maybe it was.
That was one of the the big long-standing one.
Right. Yeah.
I remember Sean and I played a solid couple hours of Portal 2 co-op, and then we just couldn't use PSN for the next while. But maybe there was another one after that.
Yep, and obviously new launches of online games are still very frequently disasters.
Yeah.
Or massively multiplayer things anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Bram Vanderhoot writes, Hey Thumbs, as an aspiring historian, I rarely see my 2 favorite things, history and video games, being combined in a meaningful way. A call for papers on my newsfeed caught my attention because it asked for that exact rare combination of my 2 favorite things. Apparently, members of the Faculty of Archaeology at the University of Leiden in the Netherlands have announced a conference called Interactive Pasts, and the announced talks bear titles that I would never imagine to see in a serious academic conference. I think you'll agree the following titles speak to one's imagination. Conducting Archaeological Fieldwork in Dwarf Fortress. Storytelling for the Next Generation. Harnessing the Power of Video Games to Share and Celebrate Cultures. Clucks and Clicks. The Archaeology and Ethics of Human-Chicken Relationships in Video Games. I guess a lot of Zelda.
I was gonna say Zelda. You're just
other-
hitting that chicken with a sword.
While I'm reading these abstracts, I wondered what Idle Thumbs would think of this conference. Now, here's my question. Do you think that video games can contribute to our understanding of history on an academic level? And if an academic approach to video games can produce a meaningful improvement to historical but popular games in general? For example, is a narrative game enhanced or limited if it tries to adhere to historical accuracy? Cheers, Bram Vanderhoot. I don't know. I mean, I think that it is nice when games set in the past, or I mean in the present, I guess, in anywhere other than just total fantasy, make some attempt to adhere to history in some way, or like be accountable to something, because games are so like a game world is just created out of whole cloth. Like you don't have to shoot it anywhere. You don't like you can just everything can be so created from nothing that I feel like the temptation to just bend things is overwhelming. That without any countervailing force where you're trying to keep yourself grounded in something, your game just lacks any sense of weight or real world resonance or authenticity. Yeah. And I think that's true of I think that Assassin's Creed often suffers from that, where even though those games are sort of ostensibly historical fiction, frequently they get so bonkers and off the rails that it's like this is not.
Yep.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, even in a game that is strictly adhering to historical context, like Total War or something,
right,
often gets picked apart for being historically inaccurate because they made choices that inevitably were there to just balance the game for X number of reasons.
The games like that aren't exactly historically accurate, but still end up teaching you this like a similar lesson, or sort of give you a feeling of that, but without. I don't know. I think the strategy games that model the systems well enough that they don't get the details right are interesting, but. Yeah.
I mean, there's obviously examples that are totally different, like Gone Home or something, which tries to evoke 90s kind of punk and riot girl and grunge culture by just inclusion of sort of authentic seeming, and in some cases actually authentic historical artifacts. And that stuff is really cool. Mm-hmm. Like that game would be way less effective if it didn't make such an effort in that area. Well, I guess that's a podcast.
Yes.
Yes.
Thanks for listening to Idle Thumbs. You can send us email as well at questions@idlethumbs.net. We're on Twitter @idlethumbs, on Facebook at facebook.com/idlethumbs. And as you probably know by now, we have a bunch of other podcasts on our network. You can find them all at idlethumbs.net/shows, including the very recently relaunched Idle Book Club, which will have the episode on Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro going up within a week, I think, in the next several days. Idle Weekend, which had a really, really great recent episode featuring Austin Walker of Giant Bomb.
This last week's Idle Weekend was great. They talk about a bunch of 90s cyberpunk movies and games and that sort of culture in general. And it was a great listen.
Mm-hmm. Yep, really, really good. And then, as always, we've got 3 moves ahead about strategy games. We have esports today about the professional gaming scene, designer notes, conversations with game developers about all kinds of things, Terminal 7 about the Netrunner card game, and am I missing anything? I think that's about it going on right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you like this podcast, please rate us and review us on iTunes if you feel we deserve it. Tell a friend if you think you know someone who might like the podcast in your life or on forums or internet communities that you're a part of. It really helps us out a lot. And thanks for listening. We will see you next week.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.